5 Live Boxing.
Heavyweight boxing is the most unpredictable sport in the universe. You're so close to making millions, to becoming a superstar, to leaving your name in the record books, and then it can go wrong. It can go wrong in one round, it can go wrong in 1 or 2 seconds. At the Copper Box on Saturday night, it went wrong for Joe Joyce. Stopped by the referee in round 6 of his WBO interim heavyweight championship defense against Zhanged. But the big prize was the super fights down the road. It was hectic, it was bloody, it was heartbreaking. I'm Steve Bunce, and this is 5 Live Boxing. The fight ended maybe 5 or 6 minutes ago, and I'm here with 2-time world champion Carl Frampton, and he looks about as bemused as the audience inside this packed out Copper Box were when that fight was stopped, when it started to go wrong. Carl, what happened?
I didn't think it was going to be an easy fight for Joe at all. I thought there'd be rounds he'd probably lose early on.
But you certainly didn't see him losing in any way, shape or form,
I was actually pretty confident that he was going to win by stoppage late on. That's how I saw the fight going. I think a lot of people were saying the same things as me. You probably did yourself, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Zhang, yeah, he surprised us in the fact that his combination punching was so good, and Joe's...
He was so smart.
Yeah, very smart.
I mean, I've seen him a few times in the flesh. I've seen him a few times on tape. I've worked through the night when he's been on fights, on different TV channels, and I'd never picked up on the smarts he showed in there tonight.
Well, I tell you what, a mistake that I thought it was a huge mistake. When you think about how Joe fought against the southpaw tonight.
Yeah.
I know he's had one southpaw win in his career as a professional.
But there's a fight where you don't break a sweat, so it doesn't count.
It looks like he's never fought. He'd never seen a southpaw in his life.
And all those years on the road, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, Russians. Yeah. What percentage of those are southpaws? 90% or something.
The majority.
So he's fought dozens of them.
It looked like I don't know. I'm really disappointed for Joe, but Zhang's punches were like his combination punch. He wasn't landing one clean shot. It was like 3 clean shots straight off the bat, and the eye was swelling. Joe was hurt. His nose was quite possibly broke as well. Yeah. But Zhang was a very, very clever performance from him.
So just to confirm, this is the way it went. At the start of round 6, there was an inspection of the eye. The fight continued, and the eye seemed to worsen somehow, even though he wasn't being hit that much, which makes me think there was maybe a bit more damage than just a swelling. And then with 90 seconds left, with Joe Joyce right above where I was sitting, blood coming from his nose, a cut on his nose, and the eye completely closed. The doctor was up in the ring, talking to Howard Foster, the referee. The doctor seemed to suggest to Howard, let it go if you want to. That seemed to be the message I got. Howard was about to wave it on. There was a second's pause. It was that moment. And in the end, he waved it off. Joe couldn't complain. No one complained. It wasn't like anyone booed. You can't complain when you see an eye like that. It's not a mysterious cut that you can't spot from the cheap seats. Anyway, Carl, stay with me. George Warren, the promoter tonight. George, first of all, the eye was bad. I mean, you've been up and seen him in the ring. It's a bad eye. There's no way he could have continued.
No, I don't think so. I don't think, I was saying, did a couple of interviews there. Carl's standing in front of us. These guys are warriors. Yeah. They're entertainers, but Jesus, give them a break. You can't see out your eye. You got a big 19 stone 7, 19 stone 8 heavyweight hitting you. Flush.
And picking shots
Correct.
as well, by the way.
And he's a good fighter, Zhang. We knew that he was before. It wasn't like this was a big surprise. This guy was coming over and he's an unknown quantity. He's an Olympic silver medalist. He's a southpaw. Joe wanted a southpaw. That was one of the things that they asked for, hence why we went with Zhang. But I think in that fight that he had with Hrgovic, he showed the level that he is. And these things happen. It would have been interesting to see how the fight would have gone if the eye wasn't as bad.
The eye,
seeing that performance, and the fact that you just said they wanted a southpaw, that baffles me. It looks like he'd never seen a southpaw in his life up until that stage, and he really struggled to figure out Zhang. He started, obviously, his fitness was creeping into it and he was coming into the fight a little bit more. But by that stage, the eye was closing shut.
Well, that's the problem. Joe's notoriously known as being a bit of a slow starter. I mean, I think the quickest I've ever seen him start was against Daniel, and I thought with the weight tonight, that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, so mobile.
But what I did like in that first round, and he was doing it up until I think he got clipped with a big left hand. He was moving to his right in circles, away from it. And I think for me, that should have just been the tactic for a bit longer. Keep him out. Let that guy, big guy like him, he's a little bit older than Joe, and I think he's not probably got the fitness of Joe. I don't think anyone's got the fitness of Joe.
Absolutely, George.
I think he would have eventually maybe tired and Joe would have got to him. But fair play.
But by the start of that 6th round, even though Joe had maybe come into it in rounds 4 and 5, he was competing and Zhang was maybe slowing down. Although there is an argument that Zhang was actually picking his shots because he knew that Joe didn't have the rest of the fight in the eye. Once he starts that 6 rounds and once it stopped, what went through your head once it was stopped, George? Because we got some bold plans. There were bold plans for Joe out there, all sorts of several plans. What went through your head at that exact moment, George?
Not a lot. Just making sure. I wanted to know firstly, was his eye okay? How bad it was? I don't know yet. I haven't caught up with the doctors or anything. But Joe didn't seem to think that he'd broken anything.
Okay. Didn't?
We don't know. I don't think he did.
Okay. So there's no pain
at the moment. Well, it's painful,
bruised,
but you know Joe,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
For a guy that can stand there and take shots like that, I don't think he feels pain like most normal people.
I think the doctor, when he's putting his fingers up, if Joe can't see him, he's guessing because he wants to continue on. He doesn't want that fight to be stopped, but it was right that it was stopped.
Yeah, I've got no problem with the stoppage at all, absolutely no problem at all. Let me just ask you this quickly, George. There is a rematch clause, or there was a possibility for a rematch clause. You're going to sit down, obviously, with Joe, with his training team, with the rest of your team at Queensbury, by the way, because it's not a solo effort; it's a family affair, so to speak. You're going to sit down, have a little chat. I know it's really early, George. I've got to put you on the spot. It's only 10 minutes since you finished. What would be your gut feeling? Go back in with Zhang or have something else? What would be your gut feeling, George?
Knowing the type of team they are, I would expect Joe will want to do the rematch.
That's my gut feeling too.
Gillet's under contract with Queensbury. He's got a good team around him. They're good people. That rematch clause, right, is Joe's. It's not mine.
Absolutely.
It's his to invoke. He was the interim champion going into this.
I think they'll be looking at it as I'm looking at it now, and if his eye doesn't start to swell, Joe probably comes into the fight even more and potentially stops Zhang, who was starting to tire a little bit.
You're building a case, Carl. I love it.
I'm building a case, but
I think you're right.
that's what they'll be thinking as well. And I thought that was going to play out. But we knew Joe takes shots, but we never thought about the swelling or cuts or anything like that. We always just assumed everything was going to bounce off his head and he was indestructible. But obviously,
it wasn't the chin, was it? It was the eye.
It was the eye.
Although it did get wobbled in the second, which was a couple of good shots. I thought Zhang boxed better. Listen, I know he's a good fighter and all of that. I thought Zhang was so much better tonight. I thought he was brilliant tonight. Focused, sharp. The counters, they were absolutely brilliant. So we might be going to Beijing, George.
Yeah, well, let's see. Maybe you could buy the flights, Bunsen.
So, but before Joe, obviously, it's going to delay any maybe July or August plan. So let's hope we get him back in November or October, something like that. In theory.
Look, take some time, catch up in a couple of weeks. He'll want to assess everything. I'm sure he'll be speaking with his trainer and with Adam, and we'll go from there.
I'll tell you what normally happens when someone like Joe, who's been as an avoided fighter, and people don't really want to fight him. When you lose a fight,
they all want to fight you.
But I still don't think they still don't want to fight Joe. Who wants to fight Joe Joyce? He's the fittest guy in the world.
In 10 years' time, we'll talk about Joe Joyce fights, and we'll tell stories about Joe Joyce fights that some of the whippersnappers around in 10 years won't believe. George, it's a pleasure and a delight talking to you. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much indeed. George is wandering. As we are wandering off, maybe we're going to try go backstage. Carl, before we finish with Big Joe, it'll certainly be a good few months out, and then he'll come back. And I think that point you made is really valid, that with Joe, people actually still maybe will not fancy fighting him.
Yeah, he's a difficult night's work for anybody. And, look, if your auntie had what should be your uncle. But so we can't just say, if your eye didn't swell, who knows what would happen. But I think, obviously, the swelling of the eye was the reason why the fight was stopped by the referee. But Zhang made that swell. Zhang was the guy that landed the punches.
It wasn't an accidental elbow or wayward head. It was Zhang boxing absolutely brilliantly and finding I thought Zhang was excellent. I didn't think Zhang had that much performance in him. I really didn't. I thought he was smart. He was sharp all the way through, and he's the one that caused that, not the other way around.
Look, I always thought Big Joe was going to win the fight, Ponce, and I think everyone kind of thought the same. I don't think there's many people thought it was ever going to be an easy fight, but Zhang certainly surprised the majority of people in the crowd tonight.
So if you're Zhang, okay, obviously he's got. If Joe invokes the rematch clause, then Zhang's got to take the fight, hasn't he?
I think that's the way it works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, he's got to anyway. I mean, not just legally, but he's got to.
And I think he may like the fight again because he was having so much success.
Yeah, that's the point I'd make, is that as much as Joe's people would be thinking, if the eye wasn't closed, this is what I would have done.
Yeah.
Zhang's people would be saying, this is the easiest fight we've had. Easiest fight at this level we've had. What happened to the Juggernaut?
Yeah.
So I think they'll massively fancy it.
Yeah, I think so. But look, a couple more rounds, and I think we could have seen Zhang just starting to slow down and Joe coming into it.
Well, it slowed down. The argument, the debate is whether he slowed down intentionally because he was conserving energy, or if he slowed down because he was tiring. That's, I think, the debate there.
Yeah, because we look at the performance in the Hrgovic fight where he had a wide lead at the start and then he's kind of lost it in the last few rounds, although I still think he won that fight. So we have evidence to say that he maybe slows down as the fight goes on. But listen, it was a fantastic performance from him.
Carl, let's leave Joe for a bit and deal with the truly bizarre, the really odd women's interim WBO lightweight title involving Michaela Mayer and Lucy Wildheart from Sweden, but based in Brentwood, I believe, who took the fight at either 24, 36 or 40 odd hours notice, and she lost, I think, just about every round, but she was in the fight all the way through. What a bizarre fight.
The scorecards say it was a one-sided fight. I give every round to Mayer, actually, but it was probably the most competitive one-sided fight you'll ever see. Every round was close, and Wildheart, credit to herself that she literally stood in at the very last moment. She was able to make the weight. She's clearly someone who lives the life and stays in shape and stays fit. And she done herself proud. And although she lost the fight, her stock will rise, and there may be more opportunities off the back of that. But on the flip side of that, Mayer as well, it's difficult for her
to get up because she was fighting a woman called Linda Artu, who'd beaten Alicia Baumgardner, and of course Mayer lost controversially to Alicia Baumgardner last
style as well.
and a completely different style. So Mayer's heart was on stopping Linda Artu that way that she'd push a rematch with Baumgardner. So there was a nice narrative to it.
Lesser fighters, their head may have went in a situation like that, but she was able to keep it, and I think that she won every round for me, but. Like I said, it was the most competitive one-sided fight you'll ever see.
So, Carl, if I could before we leave, before I go in search of Joe Joyce, who I'm told will be going to hospital very shortly to get that eye examined to make sure that there's nothing broken, that it is just a swelling. I want to ask you about the young kid, the 18-year-old heavyweight, the man that's chasing Mike Tyson's record, wants to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He was 2-0 before tonight's fight. His name's Moses Atama. He's a former world amateur youth champion, and he was fighting a guy tonight from Ukraine called Kostiantin Dovbychenko. Yeah. Now, this guy, Dovbychenko, had lost 12 fights, but he'd never been stopped. Yeah. And he's fought a lot of men who are 8-0 or 9-0. So Moses, his two wins, their total was something like 52 seconds or something absolutely ridiculous. It went to 6 rounds. Yeah. Moses won comfortably, won every round. But he injured his right hand, it seems. We saw him with ice on it. Did we learn anything more about Moses? Was there anything in what you saw there from Moses?
Well, I think he will have learned a lot about himself in that fight, rather than us learning about him. That he's clearly a very talented kid. He's got every shot in the book. He looks very relaxed. But there was a lot of mistakes made tonight. He showed his opponent and everybody in the arena that he was carrying a hand injury. Every time he threw it, he winced.
From about round 4.
And you can't do that. You hate these things, and you don't want to give...
Even in fights you're winning.
Absolutely. You don't want to give your opponent something that's positive for him that he's going to play off on and continue to come forward. So I think that was a mistake. He also, I think it reminded me of a fight of my own. My first 6-rounder against a guy called Ian Bailey from the TKO gym. I almost had him gone in the first round. and I blew a gasket trying to finish him, but he stayed in there. He was tough, and he pushed me hard for the remaining 5 rounds. And I remember at the end of 6 thinking, how am I ever going to fight for 12 rounds? I just couldn't see a way possible.
Yeah,
so I learned how to pace myself a little bit more after that fight. So it was a great learning fight for me. And I think
it will be for him.
It will be, absolutely.
Yeah, because he hasn't become a bad fighter. He's had to go 6 rounds with a survivor like that. So, Carl, listen, you wander away, do a couple of interviews, get yourself a cup of tea.
Bed is
no, maybe bed at some point. I might come and find you. I want to go and have a look, just see if I can get a little bit closer to 1 or 2 people, especially Joe. Carl, see you in a second.
Joe said yes.
Thank you.
Adam said no.
Okay.
The compromise is yes, as long as you're quick.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah.
Is that all right?
It will be 2 minutes. Big Joe. Yeah, of course you can. Big Joe, just before... Thanks for giving me 2 minutes. Just before you go off to hospital to get it examined. Oh, no, listen, no, listen, don't, because I'm emotional as well. Your mother's here as well. Joe, it didn't go the way you expected. When did you realise it was not working out tonight?
Well, yeah, when he kept on nailing me with a freaking left hand. Straight left hand.
He's still laughing, brother.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. Like, the credit to him, though. He's a good fighter, southpaw. I haven't fought a southpaw. And he's really good. He's got plenty of pedigree and stuff, and he hits hard. Good fighter. I thought I was doing well in there, but then, I just couldn't get away. He kept on nailing me with the left straight left, and.
Do you think you would have done what the Juggernaut did eventually if you hadn't had the eye, Joe? I've got to ask you that. That's an obvious question. Would you have got to him without the eye?
Yeah, I was fine. And I thought I was getting to work and I was landing the shots, but it's just not good enough tonight. And I'll be a bit better next time, or maybe I'll have one in between. I'll see what the options are. But it's annoying, and when you take big risks like that, there's a chance you could get beat. And
you've taken so many risks, Joe.
Yeah.
The last 5 fights have been all big risks, if you don't mind me saying so.
And maybe I didn't need to take that risk, but hey, you live it.
That's what Joe Joyce does.
That's what happened. But
So last question. You're talking about maybe you would have a rematch with Zhang. I mean, maybe have one in the middle, but that would be the goal.
Yeah, possibly. But I'll just see see how we feel. Just check up. It's annoying enough. I have to go to hospital to check up my eye. My eye feels like it's just bruised, but I can still see through it. All right. So just a formality to double check there's no fractures or anything.
Listen, Joe, you've taken on fearless men, and you are a fearless man, and you'll be back. I'll tell you what, you got a lovely. I know it's small consolation, but you got a lovely reception, brother.
Yeah, it was good, man. I'm just disappointed for my fans, friends, and family, and team as well for letting everyone down.
You didn't let anyone down. You just lost.
I thought I'd beat him, and then I could go for world. But I've lost the belt for now, the interim WO interim. But I will be back to avenge my defeat. Maybe I'll take one before. I don't know. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and make sure I get everything right again for next time. But I believe I'll still get to the top of the division and be world champion. It's annoying that I've got a loss though, but to my record.
Technical knockout.
Yeah, which is.
This is a technical knockout, as your mum said. It's not a real loss. Joe, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure and a delight talking to you. Thanks for giving us some time as you go off to hospital.
Yeah,
thanks, Joe.
Pleasure.
No, thanks, fellas.
Match of the Day.
Top 10 podcast.
The Match of the Day Top 10 podcast is back with bigger debates, bigger topics, and bigger laughs from this man. Yes, Micah Richards is back, along with myself and Alan Shearer for Series 8 of Match of the Day Top 10. Only on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Sounds, where if you subscribe now, you'll find the rest of our box sets to listen to.
The Match of the Day Top 10 podcast.
Listen only on BBC Sounds.
So welcome to part 2. I'm back with Carl, who's either done interviews, had a cup of tea, or just sat down and relaxed for a few seconds. Carl, next Saturday in Cardiff, Joe Cordina aims to regain the title that was taken from him last year.
Very unfairly.
Yeah, well, I think so too, but that's their rules. It's the IBF Super Featherweight title. He's fighting Rakhimov, the new champion, who of course beat Zelfa Barrett to win the vacant title in Abu Dhabi. You know the way it goes. Joe Cordina still unbeaten, focused, hard fight. Rakhimov's a hard, tough fighter. How do you see that going?
I think Joe Cordina is probably one of the best fighters in the UK at the minute. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think he was really hard done by and having the title taken off him.
No one screamed. It was obviously in black and white.
Look, we look like. But you look at the IBF, and there's normally seem to be the most stringent with the rules in terms of the governing bodies. But if that's a heavyweight, they allow him a bit more time because there's more money.
He's generating fortunes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I felt sorry for him, but his performance to win the world title against the Japanese fighter, I can't remember his name. Fantastic, unbelievable shot, unbelievable knockout shot. This is a different proposition for him. It's a tougher fight for him. It's a harder fight. But I still think that he wins the fight.
I went down actually to see Tony Sims and Joe Cordina, and this is all going to be on Thursday's pod, a special pod. But we started by talking about that injury, the injury that led to him losing his world title.
As soon as I seen it, it just like my heart went in my mouth. I thought, is it that bad that I might have to retire or anything like that? And then when I got on the phone to him, Mike Hayton rang me in the evening.
He's the noted surgeon that does a lot of hands for fighters.
And he's probably one of the best in the world.
A lot of people turn to him.
So I had a phone call off of me when Joe, listen, you've got a big break. I said, how long will it take? He went, 3 months, you'll be back punching. I said, okay. So I sort of sat down and thought about it, and I was thinking, okay, yeah, it's not too bad. And yeah, I just made the decision, get through this difficult period. And I wasn't sure whether they were going to strip me or not. But then I spoke to Tony and Charlie, and basically the deal that was made for me to fight for the title was I wasn't able to have the 2 extensions that I had. I was allowed the 1, but then I would have had to defend in 90 days, and it wasn't possible for me to make the 90 days with the injury I had.
So that was it. So the title was gone.
The title was gone. So yeah.
What were the moments like then when you knew it was gone?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Baz. It was quite a difficult moment because you work your whole life to get to that point. Win it in the fashion I won it, made my whole family proud, and looking forward to the next fight and big purses and whatever and big nights of boxing, and then for me to be told that there's nothing we can do, it just felt like I was on my own. I was speaking to Tony, and Tony was like, listen, we're trying everything, but it was just, it was.
Do you feel like you would rather lost in the ring in a fight than be taken off you? Just not have the opportunity just to fight for it, sort of thing.
I didn't really think about it like that. I just thought the way I was thinking was just like, I was like, they're against me. They've got something in for me, and it was just automatically in my head. But yeah, obviously the rules are there for a reason. But at the same time, there's people who've been in similar positions, and the same rules ain't being exercised.
So they've kept their title, had a 6-month break, and come straight back in, and maybe someone's run an interim, or maybe not even an interim.
Well, that's what interim titles are for.
That's really what they should be for. Tony's just walked in. Did you, the moment he said stop, did you sense then, and once the glove was off, did you get a sense that this is a bit more serious, this isn't bruised, this is going to be nasty?
When he threw the punch, the kid was walking onto it. You could see his hand buckle up a little bit. And when directly as he done that, he said, my hand's gone. So as soon as I took his glove off and he said, I can't close my hand, you knew it was a bad injury, do you know what I mean? Like then your head starts spinning, do you know what I mean? And it was like Joe said, it was like such a disappointing time for him because he won the world title in front of all of his fans and family in Cardiff, and as he said, he worked his whole life to get there, and then to be stripped of the title, it was something that you don't foresee. Yeah, it was a bit of a down time for Joe, really. Yeah.
So your job's very different at that point as well.
I spoke to Joe, and I think like he was in a bad place at the time. And the frame of mind that he was in, he'd had an operation before, and he knew how long it takes to recover, and then you got to get back into camp again. So it's a long process, and he knew that what he had in front of him. So, but I think after a few weeks, he got his head around it, and then he knew what he was going to do and come back.
So that was Joe Cordina and Tony Sims with me. Now, Carl, before I let you go, you think this is going to be late? Next week after Cordina, it's going to be even later because we've got to find somewhere to sit for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, maybe even 6 hours before we get one of those golden fights that sometimes we don't expect to happen. Gervonta Davis against Ryan Garcia. We're coming in from Las Vegas, and a staggering event, a lightweight. Just a staggering fight to get made. Did you think it would ever get made, or did you just think it was just one of those fights that was just going to drag on and never see the light of day?
Nah, there was a lot of talk about it for quite a while. I always thought that both guys were really going to have to step up their level of opposition at some point. There's, two of the most talented fighters on the planet, but you could maybe be criticised for the level of opposition they faced so far, although one of them's a multi-weight world champion, but still you'd imagine they'd have fought better opponents. This is Gervonta Davis's toughest fight, but this is also Ryan Garcia's toughest fight by a stretch. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think that Gervonta Davis is probably the favourite in the fight, but I think that if Ryan Garcia can stick to a really strict game plan, punch long from a distance, don't get caught in the middle distance, and when you're close, you spoil it, you hold, you push his head down, whatever. I think that he has a chance to win it, but he has to be strict from the start to the finish.
And I think he will be strict. I think he's got Oscar De La Hoya in his ear. He's got Joe Goosen in the corner with him, who's a man who demands that they don't put a foot wrong, his fighters, during the course. I think we might be for something special.
That's important. I think someone like Goosen in his corner is very, very important in a fight like this.
Well, that's next weekend. Dan, and what a weekend it is. In fact, what a series of weekends coming up. But it wasn't just the boxing here at the Copper Box. On the Friday night, I was at York Hall, Bethnal Green, to watch a boxer called Tycee Gallagher fight Lisa Whiteside. It was for the vacant Commonwealth Super Bantamweight title, and Gallagher boxed brilliantly, superbly to beat Whiteside. And Whiteside's a former Commonwealth Games gold medalist, a former silver medalist at the European Championships and also at the World Championships. It was a massive win by Gallagher. And I think in Tycee Gallagher, down there at Super Bantam, Feather, Super Feather, whatever, we've got a real star.
Feels unreal, massive relief. Like, I knew I had the ability to do it, so it feels so good that I pulled it off and done it. Yeah.
It seems to me that everything you tried worked. Every single thing looked like you'd worked in the gym on stuff, and everything seemed to work. Is that what it felt like to you?
That's literally exactly what it felt like. Like everything Tony was saying in the corner, I was trying out, and it was working. So yeah.
When did you realise that you were going to win and win comfortably?
I'd say the first few rounds I thought, I've got this, and then in the couple of middle rounds I thought she had it, and I had to get a second win. And after the seventh round onwards, I was like, I've done this, I've done it. Like I was just boxing cleaner, beating her at range, and like every time she was rushing in, I was catching her, so I knew I had it comfortably. Yeah.
Now she's been to Europeans, Worlds, Commonwealths, European Games. She's been all over. She's got medals, stacks of them. What's your story? What's your boxing story? What happened to get you here to this stage this evening, Tycee?
So I boxed as an amateur, boxed on England, won the ABAs, and then as I was boxed for England, I kind of went off the scene a bit. I had a baby, and then...
so you're both mums?
Yeah, both mums, so yeah. And then got back into it a couple of years ago with Tony Peel in the pros, thought I'd turn over and give it a crack, and then I had a shot at the Commonwealths
against Nina Hughes.
Yeah, against Nina Hughes last summer. And that loss was like probably the biggest blessing in disguise. Didn't feel like it at the time, but yeah. And then from then I've worked on absolutely everything to be able to get in this position. So yeah.
So after you had the child, did you vanish completely? Did you turn your back on it, or was it always in your back of your mind, Tyce?
It was always in the back of my mind, but I did have a couple of years off, of just in baby bubble, yeah. But I knew I'd always want to get back into it, but I didn't never ever imagine turning pro. But here I am, yeah.
Do you think you're a better fighter since you had the baby?
Yeah, I've got.
Since you came back?
I'd say, yeah, a lot better, and I've got more fight in me. And I feel like I just suited the pros a little bit more. I don't suit 3 rounds. I have to warm into it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
And what a business! You're at Super Bantam, but there's Bantam, there's Feather, there's dozens of women floating around. I tell you what, there's some big fights to be made in the next couple of years for you, isn't there?
Exactly, and that's that's the mix I want to be in. I'll be between Bantam and Super Bantam, and yeah, I want all the good fights. Yeah, I want to be fighting the best girls because I want to earn everything I get in this sport.
And there's some big money out there eventually for some of you guys in some of the fights that you could possibly have, especially your style.
Show me the money. Show me the money.
Well, I'm skint, so I'm not the person to be showing you the money.
Yeah, exactly. So see where it goes, to be honest. But I'm really enjoying it, and that's the main thing.
So that was Tycee Gallagher, and obviously she's in good form. She's happy. She's absolutely delighted with both winning the belt and her performance. Lisa Whiteside, however, slightly different. Her dressing room was a very different place.
Yeah, at the end of the day, her tactics were bob on, and as much as, do you know what I mean? I know I'm strong, I know I'm fit, but bob on with the tactics, and I don't know, I just didn't get my legs going tonight. They just seemed to be a bit
It looked that
behind
way.
me. Yeah, they seemed to be like in second gear, and my top half was in first gear time. Well, if that makes sense, but no,
It does, yeah.
Yeah, the best girl won tonight. Every credit to her, and wish her all the best for the future.
Did you sense it early? Did you think, there's something not quite rocking tonight?
I knew, the first round, I knew she was going to be a tricky opponent. She's fast on her feet, good footwork. So it was about hunting and picking her down. But just her movement was beautiful. And yeah, it was just like Mick was saying, just get there a little bit closer, get a bit closer. And as she did, then she'd just move, or she'd beautiful jab, pick me off. So no, the right girl won tonight. I think maybe in the middle of the fight, I pulled it back. I know, obviously,
You did for a couple of rounds.
yeah, there was a few rounds where there was one round I knew I hurt her, but every credit to her, and good, decent girl. Boxed beautiful tonight. Probably, looking at her last fights, I wouldn't have expected that performance tonight. And yeah, the better girl won tonight.
She had a couple of years out to have a baby, don't you? Those babies get in the way, don't they?
Well, they give us superpower. That's what it is.
That's what I said to her. I said, "Are you a better fighter since the baby?" She said, "Yeah, definitely."
Yeah, I think they do, definitely. And it's lovely to know that we can box, you can have some time out, have family, and then get back at it. So no, I wish her all the best for the future, and every credit to her. Tactics bob on. The better girl won tonight.
You're a bit upset.
Yeah, I'm gutted, but I am and I'm not. Do you know what I mean? I went out there. I can't say, it wasn't a robbery.
You tried everything.
Yeah, and it just wasn't happening for me tonight. It just didn't click. My legs weren't there. I don't know. It's just, I'm not a spring chicken, am I? So it's just one of those. Just not going to make any harsh decisions at this moment in time. But my main priority is my husband, my baby boy, and go from there.
Do you think you might be making some harsh decisions?
Possibly. I've got to sit back down, and yeah, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm a 37. If I was to win this fight tonight, big opportunities would have occurred. Now I've not got that door open anymore, so yeah, it's time to see where it goes.
That was Lisa Whiteside, obviously a little bit broken. I'm going to go and see Lisa up in Chorley. Great news is that the day after the fight, Saturday afternoon, she was at home trying to share an ice lolly with her son Jordan. It's always difficult because, well, babies always win in fights like that. Tycee Gallagher, a mother also. We'll hear more from her. I might actually go and see her in the gym as well. Well, it's been an emotional night at the Copper Box, to say the very least. Carl, it's always a pleasure. It's the first time ever in the Copper Box where it actually felt like something was happening. This place has been, well, it's been awful, really, most of the time. We've been here, empty seats, but tonight it felt proper, felt big. Wasn't the result that perhaps we wanted, but you know what? It's a good result for boxing.
Yeah.
We'll have a rematch. That'll be a lot of fun. It's been a big night. I've been Steve Bunce, and this has been 5 Live Boxing.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.